Today I'll show you how to recreate these two very elegant looking cards. I made them for First Communion again, but you can do them for any occasion. So you're gonna need a detail plate. This one I'm using is from Simon Says Stamp. And you're gonna need vellum. I'm gonna do it twice. So I had the smaller panel. I'm just gonna tape it to my plate and run it through. Now we'll add the dots. You see me struggling to remove the panel afterwards because it kind of gets stuck to the plate. But I used my paper piercing tool and I lifted those corners carefully and carefully removed it. That will happen every time you run a vellum panel through your machine. But if you just need to go slowly and you will remove it, it will curl up. But because we're gonna emboss it afterwards, that will make your vellum pen change directions a bit. So I will do that twice. The second panel is a bit bigger, and it's gonna give me the same result. If you haven't watched my previous video that's called Vellum Card Ideas, please watch it once you're done with this one, because it will give you way more background and way more ideas on what to do. If you have watched it, this one will have different ideas for you. I'm going to build up and show you what else you can do. So keep an eye. Here I'm using this stamp-shaped die, also from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to cut both panels kind of towards the edge. So it's not like my main element is not centered. And here I'm using once again that foam stamping thing from Sizzix to emboss. And side by side, I'll show you that you can also use your embossing tan mat to do the same thing. So here I'm using the back of my panel, the rougher side. That's the side that I always do my debossing with my stylus. I am using my stylus on this one just because it's quicker, but you can use your empty pen and you just need to make sure that you're using the same pressure all over. Start light and add pressure as you need, and it should be uniform and it should work. So here I'm doing the two panels side by side on the two different embossing bases, let's say. And you see there I can get usually a more visible result on the black one, but that could be because I didn't press it enough. I am very heavy-handed, so sometimes I try to lighten it up a little bit, but it's no problem. Like if I run the stylus 2 or 3 more times, that will build up the pressure and that will make it like more vibrant and clearer and more white, I guess. So you can use both, there's no problem. It's just that the black one, I guess it has more give, so you get the same result with less effort. Here I chose to do the outer circles, the inner shapes, they're kind of like teardrops, not teardrops, they're more like petals. I believe this pattern, the central one, it's supposed to be kind of like a snowflake, but I really think that, to me, it ended up looking more like a flower, so you can use it all year long. I did one circle, one small circle in the very center of the what will be the snowflake. And I chose ahead of time where I would emboss and where I would cut this one. So I had it all kind of planned and figured out before I even started. Usually I'm not that good. I'm not that organized. I plan as I go. And here I'm using my empty pen to do the line that goes all around that snowflake pattern. this was actually very quick to make, even though I'm making 2 of them. And it took me way less time than I usually would have to with my cards, because that dotted plate does most of the work for me. Um, Doing the piercing, the paper piercing myself, I think it's one of the things that it's most time consuming. So I might not show you all the details here to save some time, but I'm gonna do the same thing all over the pattern. So I'm gonna do the line that outlines all of those shapes. They do repeat across the panel, and I'm gonna do all the circles and all the petals in the same way. And also, if I can't find that tiny circle in the center of the snowflake, I will do that one too. And I'm also gonna cut out the same shapes for all of them, which I'll show you here in a second. So I did both of them the same way, the panel on the left and the panel on the right. Please forgive my hair showing here. I didn't notice that when I was editing this video. Oh my goodness, I think I'm going blind. I have to put my head right above the panel to be able to see it. But yeah. Once again, Vellum, working with Vellum is my area of expertise, so I'm just trying to show you different ideas. Here are the panels fully done, and the one on the left was embossed with a black platform, and the one on the right with the tan matte, embossing matte. So now I'm gonna start cutting. There are these 4 dots kind of along down the circles and towards the center, and I'm gonna cut them all, and you get kind of like a star shaped, a 4-star shape. It's very tiny. I might show you in detail in a second. So I'm gonna do it all over the panel, everywhere the shapes are. I'm gonna do it for both panels all across the pattern. That's the first thing I'm doing. Usually I do the same thing all over, and then I'll move on to the next shape, which here is going to be the square that is standing along in between those snowflake shapes. I am going to cut it all out, all of those squares. I think there was like 7 in each panel. And then I'm gonna, once I have all the squares removed, I'm gonna move on to the next shape. If you are enjoying these vellum ideas, please leave me a comment. I would love to know. I would love to talk to you. And for this one, I am going to give you an idea on how to make the cross that I used. And if you want a template for the cross, make sure you add me on Instagram, and I'll DM you an image that you can use as a template, okay? So here I finished cutting all the squares, and now I'm cutting the inner circle of those shapes on the inside of where I embossed before. If I forget to say, I always cut from the smooth side, and I always emboss from the rougher side. So the smooth side to me is always the front. And the rough side is always the back. I usually don't use it the other way around, but you could give it a try. Maybe it looks very nice, and maybe you like the way it looks. Maybe you like the texture as well. So I'm cutting all of the circles, all of the squares, all of the shapes from the smooth side, and I did emboss from the rough side. If you move your fingers along, you can tell very easily which is which. And you can see now that the panel already curled the other way around from when I removed it. And now I'm moving on to cut the inside of those petal-like shapes. Here you can see kind of a bit of the final result. The shapes very close to the border, I didn't do them because I didn't want to lose the stamp-shaped pattern. For everything else I did. And here you can see on the detail, I insert the 2 tips of those scissors into the 2 holes and I cut, move it 1 hole at a time and cut it again. Here's the template that I used. And remember, if you add me on Instagram, I can send an image of it to you. I did lose my footage, so now I'm just gonna talk you through it. Each time I move that paper, you're gonna see as much because I put oil on my nails. So I have this gold cardstock. It's very lightweight, and I layered 4 of them. I stuck all of the sides so they wouldn't move and shift. I added the template to the top, and I'm gonna use my needles, the needles that I created myself to do the piercing. So this is how I told you that I do the piercing myself, and it takes a while. For each one of those lines on my template, I will pierce twice. So once on top, once on bottom. And once I have the whole thing done, I'm going to remove it and I'm going to have all the piercing on my panels. I can separate my panels because this is cardstock. I'm going to have to work with them kind of 2 at a time. But if it was vellum, you can do sometimes more than that. So I did the piercing with 4. I'm gonna cut those cross or square details 2 at a time. I don't recommend doing more than that. Once you do cut all over your pattern, you can actually just use simple scissors and fussy cut around the whole shape, and you're gonna have a cross left in the end. I sped this up quite a bit, but please slow down if you want to see it in detail. So for each one of those square holes, I am going to cut 4 times. I just change direction 2 holes at a time, and I'm gonna have kind of like a cross shape or a star shape. Here is after I fussy cut around my cross. I added some pearls and I stuck everything together. This one, my beige panel, is the first one was a bit bigger. This one I also die cut with the same die, the one that is stamp shaped, and I glued everything together and added a sentiment. Call it done. Have fun, enjoy, bye.